The Vanishing Light, the Flannan Isles Lighthouse Mystery Real Story. Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you is a real story etched into sea spray and legend. We begin on December 26, 1900, when a weather-beaten supply tender named Hesperus pounded through the winter swells of Scotland's Outer Hebrides. Her destination, a lonely basalt fang called Eilean. One of the desolate Flannan Isles. 3 lighthouse keepers, James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and young Donald MacArthur, were stationed there to keep the lantern burning against Atlantic darkness. What the relief crew expected was routine handshake, hot tea, and payroll signatures. What they found instead was a lighthouse still lit, half-eaten meals congealing on the table, a single chair overturned as if someone had risen in violent haste, and no trace of the men who should have been waiting on the quay. Boats missing. No footprints in waterlogged turf. Log entries spoke of a terrible storm that tore at the tower, yet every shipping lane reported calm seas and bright stars on those very nights. A century later, the rocks of Eilean still hum with unanswered questions, and some say with the keeper's last frantic cries echoing through the salt wind. Chapter 1: The Island That Swallowed Men. The Hesperus heaved beneath low iron skies as she sighted the lighthouse. First Mate Joseph Moore, a weary man whose beard always smelled of kerosene, stood on the bow railing, binoculars pressed so hard they left red moons around his eyes. He expected to see Duckett's broad shoulders waving from the landing platform. Instead, only gulls circled, bleating like restless souls. Moore's boots hit the stone jetty with a hollow clack. The air smelled wrong too clean, like a church scrubbed for a funeral. He shouted, "Halloo, the light!" No answer but wind. Slithering between jagged rocks, a locked gate barred the supply path, contrary to regulation. Keepers were required to leave it unlatched on relief day. Moore's key rattled in numb fingers. Past the gate, the storeroom door stood ajar. Inside, barrels of paraffin undisturbed, but a single oilskin hung on its peg, one of 3, halfway. Up the cliff path, he noticed a set of iron railings bent outward, twisted like soft lead overlooking a 40-foot drop to foam-slashed boulders. Seaweed clung to the railings 3 meters above high tide mark, as though flung there by some impossible surge. At the lighthouse entrance, he pounded the oak with frozen knuckles. Silence. He entered. The kitchen clock had stopped at 9:07 too. Mugs sat on the walnut table, steam long since fled. A third lay shattered on the tiles, cold tea staining grout like dried blood. Bread knife embedded in half a loaf. Marshall's notebook open, pen resting mid-sentence. God help us all if then nothing. In the bedroom bunks, the blankets were drawn back, pillows indented, kerosene lanterns still half full. Only MacArthur's Bible remained on his pillow. Pages fluttering to Psalm 46. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Moore's thumb trembled on the verse. Logbooks in the lantern room revealed the last entries. December 12, gale north-northwest. Sea lashed to fury. Duckett quiet. MacArthur weeping. December 13, storm still raging. Marshall says tower rocked. Prayers said. December 14, storm ended. Sea calm. God is over all. Meteorological stations 60 miles away recorded dead calm those 3 nights. No gale, no swell, nothing but starlight glittering on glassy water. Moore descended to the signal. Flag mast, the warning cone, used only in brutal storms, was missing, its rope severed. Footprints? None. The island grasses lay flattened in concentric swirls, as if pressed by a giant unseen hand. He returned to the Hesperus and, voice cracking, signaled the captain. Men gone. Stop. Chapter 2 echoes in the lantern room. It was well past midnight when the Hesperus raised anchor and slipped from the jetty, leaving First Mate Joseph Moore behind with 2 volunteer seamen. Murray and Yuan Glass to secure the tower until a full inquiry could arrive. A gibbous moon hissed through smoky clouds, silvering the Atlantic into ragged mercury. Moore watched the tender's lanterns dwindle, feeling the island inhale around him as if Eilean had been holding its breath since the keepers vanished, and only now dared to suck cold air into hidden lungs. The three men hauled crates of coal and paraffin up the zigzag path. Each footfall rang too loud, amplified by stone walls that seemed to pulse with latent sound. Halfway, Murray froze. Did ye hear that? Glass shook his head, yet Moore's spine prickled. He too had caught the faintest scrape, like boots on rock, coming from high above where the lantern room crowned the tower. They reached the machinery room, a cramped chamber where brass clockworks ticked to rotate the Fresnel lens. Here the air smelled of ozone and hot oil, though no engine turned. Moore wound the mechanism manually. Gears groaned. Lantern panes sliced moonlight into white knives that flashed across the empty sea, seeking answers no horizon would give. On a workbench lay a torn scrap of oilskin, edges charred, smelling of lightning-scorched kelp, penciled. Words bled across the waxed fabric. Second night thunder inside stone. Light keeps turning, but ocean is higher than sky. The handwriting matched Thomas Marshall's neat cursive. Moore tucked the fragment into his log. The wailing barometer dotted T317. The barometer in the weather alcove let out a sharp snap, its glass face cracking. The needle spun to the farthest end, barometric pressure dropping as though a hurricane loomed above the lighthouse roof, yet outside the sea lay slick as black marble. Murray exhaled a nervous laugh. Ghost o' the gale they wrote about, eh? Before Moore could answer, the fog bell clanged. One solitary peal from the courtyard below struck without wind. All three men raced down the spiral stairs, boots clattering like musket fire. Outside, the bell rope swung in wide arcs, but the air was dead still. Moonlight revealed footprints leading away from the bell, deep, waterlogged impressions that glistened but dripped no runoff. They ended abruptly at the cliff's edge. Toes pointed seawards, as if the walker had stepped into thin air. Glass, voice brittle, muttered the psalm MacArthur had left open, though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Moore knelt, touched the prints. The water inside was warm, the song beneath the stairs. Dawn bled gray across slate clouds. While Murray prepared tea, Moore inspected the storeroom for missing supplies. One oilskin still hung. Two were gone, he counted. Sextants, flares, rations, nothing else disturbed. The only anomaly, the storm gear locker, its oak door chewed 2 splinters along the jamb. Iron latch snapped inward, as if something inside had forced its way out. From the stairwell came a hum, low, rhythmic, mournful. Glass appeared, face blanched. There's singing beneath the steps. Together they lifted the trapdoor to the cistern cavity, a narrow void where rainwater collected. Darkness breathed up, cool and stale. Moore lowered a lantern. Its glow revealed water 3 feet deep, mirror still. Around the cistern walls, hand-drawn tally marks climbed like vines. Groups of 5 scratched with something sharp. Moore counted 113. Beneath the final tally, a phrase gouged so deeply the stone flacked white. Not drowned, but taken under glasses. Whisper trembled. Taken. Where? Water rippled though no stone fell. A faint chorus drifted upward, 3 voices woven in dissonant harmony, chanting Gaelic lullabies older than written record. Moore slammed the trapdoor. The song ceased, but the timber echoed a single hollow thump from below, as if knuckles of seawater knocked in polite demand. Messages in the weather log. B. While lantern light they scrutinized Marshall's official logbook after the final entry. Storm ended. God is over all. Moore found 7 blank pages that, when tilted toward the lamp, revealed ghost ink impressions, the pressure of a pen that had written but left no visible ink, like a palimpsest of terror. He shaded the indentations with coal dust. Words emerged: ducket outside all night, staring seaward, smiles as if meeting kin in the black. Marshall hears voices beneath rock, like choir through keyhole. MacArthur says lantern flame bends inward, not outward, says sea is climbing the light. 11:47 p.m. Something knocks third time, all ropes taut though no wind. I fear the door will not hold a fourth. The final line scraped so deep it tore the page. If God is over all, why do I hear him below me? Moore's heartbeat hammered against ribs. He closed the book, feeling the tower lean never so slightly as if the stone itself sighed. The fourth. Knock. Night returned in bruised violet. Moore stationed Murray at the lantern glass at the generator shed. He paced the corridor, ears straining for the rumored fourth knock. At 11:42 p.m., a tremor shivered the floor. Paint flakes drifted like snow. 3 knocks resounded from the main door, deep, deliberate, spaced by 13 seconds. Moore's breath caught. He stepped closer, hand on bolt. A 4th knock boomed louder, force bending the hinges. The bolt slid of its own accord, metal. Squealing, windless chill swept through seams. The door eased inward. Beyond stood nothing but swirling mist that smelled of wet stone and ozone. Yet within that void, 3 silhouettes coalesced, vague, lantern-lit outlines of men in oilskins, faces obscured by dripping brine, their mouths gapped as if shouting, but no sound carried. In their eyes burned reflection of the lighthouse flame, yet the lantern room sat 50 feet above. Moore's voice cracked. Ducket. Marshall. Dunny. The shapes leaned forward. Seawater spilled from cuffs and collars, puddling on the lintel stone though their boots never touched ground. Behind Moore the barometer shattered entirely. Mercury spraying like silver rain. The silhouettes raised webbed, pallid hands beckoning. And then, just as Glass bolted down the corridor wielding a flare gun, the figures fell apart into mist, sucked backward over the cliff. The door slammed shut, bolt shearing clean off and skittering across tiles. The tower rocked once, twice, then stilled. A distant wave crashed, though the tide charts called for slack water. A signal no ship recorded. A T-206 Murray yelled from the lantern. A green flash had erupted on the horizon, a maritime distress color unheard of in Royal Service code. It pulsed thrice, paused thrice again, then vanished. Moore signaled with the siren, but no reply came. Next morning Lloyd's registers confirmed. No vessel sailed within 50 miles, and no captain logged a green flare, yet in Moore's notebook the pattern remained. 3, pause, 3, the same cadence as the night door knocks. Chapter 3, the storm that wasn't on any map. Fog corkscrewed round the lantern room, wrapping the glass in a milky shroud that scattered the beam back in 2. The tower like an accusation. By first light, Joseph Moore had slept barely an hour, slumped at the kitchen table where the stopped clock still insisted it was 9:07. Murray leafed through the keeper's spare logbook, scribbling new entries with trembling hand. Yuan. Glass mended the twisted gate latch outside, whistling to chase off nerves. A T-812, the wind picked up from dead calm to gale force in the span of a heartbeat. Crockery rattled. The barometer face, already shattered, ticked in reverse, its broken needle scratching fresh grooves as though marking time for the dead. Moore bolted up the spiral stair to check the gallery rail. Salt spray lashed his cheeks. Though the sea far below looked oddly still, no whitecaps, no rising swell. It was the air that roared, not the ocean, like a hurricane trapped between cloud and stone. He stepped onto the parapet and the wind stopped. Silence crushed his eardrums. Then a sound emerged, low and rhythmic, pulsing through the iron plates. Beneath his boots, heartbeat once, twice, a deliberate thud that rose from the granite bones of Eilean. Itself, the island's alive, Murray called from the hatch, face chalk pale. Moore shook his head, or something beneath it. Is the lantern that tilted in stillness. A T-1044, a tremor rattled cutlery. The Fresnel lens for tons of brass and crystal began to rotate on its own, although the clockwork lay disengaged. Its sweep no longer matched the programmed 2 flashes every 30 seconds. Instead, the beam stuttered thrice, paused thrice. Again the very signal seen as the green flash the night before. Glass cursed and lunged for the brake wheel, but metal teeth sheared like candle wax. The lantern whirled faster until prisms blurred into a single halo. When Moore thrust his logbook into the light, its pages glowed a sickly sea green, as though soaking up some alien phosphorescence. Without warning, the entire lantern frame tilted. 6 degrees to port, no quake, no wind gust, just a bone-deep yaw as if the tower itself bent toward the ocean. A muffled crack boomed below. The machinery room floor had split along a perfect circle, exposing black void that smelled of brine and ozone. From that fissure rose a single droplet of seawater levitating, glistening emerald before bursting into salty vapor that coated every surface with frost. Murray whispered, "Storm in the earth, not the sky, the keeper in the walls." That evening Glass descended to fetch coal and didn't return. Moore and Murray followed, hurricane lamps bobbing. The cellar corridor felt wrongly angled, as though somebody had redrawn gravity. They found Glass kneeling before the cistern trap, ear pressed to oak. "He's inside," Glass muttered. "Who?" "MacArthur, praying." Moore pried up the hatch. The water lay calm. Yet a silhouette knelt under the surface, head bowed. Hands clasped, pale lantern glare revealed the face. It was indeed Donald MacArthur, hair swirling weightless, lips moving in frantic prayer, though lungs drew no air. His eyes flicked open, fixing Moore with crystalline terror. Then the silhouette broke apart into ripples, leaving only black water and the echo of a drowned psalm. Murray retched. Glass slammed the hatch, sobbing, "We have to leave this place. SOS across empty waves." At T-23 o'clock they cranked the fog siren full force, 30-second blasts rolling into night. No answer. They set flares, red, then white, then blue. The sky absorbed them like ink into vellum. Murray tapped the telegraph key, sending. Toward Cape Wrath radio, but static replied with its own pattern: 3 dots, 3 dashes, 3 dots, endless loop as if the island talked back. In Morse, mocking them. In despair they fired the last rocket. Its magnesium glare lit the western cliffs, revealing something impossible. Footprints materializing in real time, indenting the turf step after step toward the sea. Each print filled instantly with green-lit water. At the cliff edge the prints turned downward, continuing vertical down basalt face like steps for a giant descending into the deep. The rocket fizzled. Darkness swallowed the footprints and the heartbeat from rock resumed, quicker now, eager. The green constellation. Just after midnight, Moore spotted lights on the horizon, 7 pinpoints of viridian fire floating above the comet Atlantic, forming a crooked constellation that mirrored the Big Dipper. Through binoculars the lights shimmered like lanterns tied to invisible masts. They pulsed in unison with the tower's rolling heartbeat. Glass whispered, "A flotilla of ghosts come to fetch their crew." The constellation drifted closer without. "Ripple or wake," Moore ordered the men inside, bolting every door, though wood and iron seemed laughable barriers. He doused the lantern. Darkness fell, but outside the green lights brightened, hovering just beyond cliff edge. Suddenly the machinery room fissure spewed a column of seawater that froze midair, sculpting 3 human shapes, soilskins dripping, faces half erased, eyes glowing emerald. They moved through solid stone as easily as fog, ascending the spiral stairs, water sloshing in their hollow chests. Murray screamed and thrust a Bible at the leading figure. Pages soaked instantly, turning black. The apparition paused, mouths opening, and from each gapped a siren-like roar, equal parts wind, surf, and bell, so loud the bricks swept salty condensation. Lamps burst, darkness detonated with emerald lightning. When silence returned, the apparitions were gone on the floor. Lay Murray's Bible opened to Psalm 46, words smeared away except a single verse burnt into parchment, "Be still." Dawn of the soundless sea. The next morning the Hesperus reappeared, drawn by the unanswered radio loop. She found signal flags flying upside down, the universal distress cry. Moore, Glass, and Murray were evacuated, half deaf, half mad. The captain swore the Atlantic looked like a mill pond, yet the lighthouse leant 5 degrees off true, as if nudged by some colossal shoulder. Moore turned for one last glance at Eileen. Green sparks flickered around the lantern glass, then died. In his ears the heartbeat persisted long after the island vanished astern, slowing only when land reappeared off sky. Doctors blamed exhaustion. Naval Board called it mass hysteria. But Moore's log survived its final line, written with shaking hand. Sea calm, sky clear, storm is below. Chapter 4, What the Admiralty Refused to Hear. It was January 9, 1901, when a black lacquered Admiralty carriage wheeled into the courtyard of the Northern Lighthouse Board in Edinburgh. Inside sat Lieutenant Commander Alastair Montague-Ann, investigator whose medals for torpedo salvage glittered against a face carved from skepticism. He had plucked Joseph Moore's battered logbook from a sealed evidence sack, intent on exposing the flights of Celtic fancy that, in his view, had fouled an otherwise routine accident inquiry. Montague's first act was to summon Moore, Murray, and Glass to a dark oak hearing room. Rain ticked on mullioned windows. Gas lamps hissed. The commander read aloud the entries about singing cisterns, levitating seawater, ghostly silhouettes, then snapped the book shut with a clap that made Murray flinch. "Gentlemen, we deal in charts and tonnages, not phantoms," Montague declared. "Give me hard phenomena." Moore slid an envelope across the table, a shard of Fresnel lens glass that had turned sea green, veins of quartz spider webbing within as if frozen mid-boil. Royal Dockyard chemists later found the silicoletta warped into impossible angles quasi-crystals, unknown to science until the late 20th century. Montague paled but pressed on. Next came an iron door bolt recovered from the tower, edges warped into corkscrew swirls without trace of heat discoloration, as though kneaded like dough by colossal fingers. Murray testified it had been torn free. During the 4th knock, metallurgists reported molecular grain realigned along spiral vectors suggestive of torsion by fields of unknown origin. Montague said nothing, jaw ticking. Finally, Glass produced a sealed vial of cistern water. Under microscope, the liquid contained microflukes shaped like nautilus shells, spinning in synchronized patterns when exposed to light. The organisms emitted faint pulses at precisely 13 Hz, matching the heartbeat vibration felt in the tower. Naval biologists called the creatures wholly undocumented. The sample died within 24 hours. The pulses persisted for 72, blinking after life had gone. Montague's report, filed classified Admiralty eyes only, concluded in clipped prose. All 3 keepers were likely swept to sea by rogue surge. Extraordinary observations attributed to stress, isolation, and optical illusion. Recommend Lighthouse. Fully re-garrisoned. Incident closed, but an unredacted addendum, initial day M, whispered a different truth. Advise suspension of service at Flannan Light until subcrustal acoustic anomalies are charted. Potential geothermal venting through. Basalt fissures, source unknown, risk of further disappearances high. The addendum never reached the Northern Lighthouse Board. 7 days later, 3 replacement keepers, Graham Kerr, Isaac Blair, and Sweeney, steamed toward Eilean. Aboard the tender Pole Star, Moore, still on medical leave, watched from Leith Pier, stomach curdling with dread. As the ship's funnel smoke merged with storm cloud, he swore he heard a distant triple-pulse foghorn, a signal the Flannan Tower could no longer produce, the return to the Leaning Tower. January 18th, 10:55 p.m. Weather, snow showers, Beaufort. For Kerr's first wireless message crackled through. Lantern mechanism functional, though glass green tinged. Ocean calm, but tower vibrates in cycles of 13 seconds. Will continue observations. 2:14 a.m. Strange pressure drop. Barometer fallen off scale. Hearing distant bell, though ours is lashed. Will secure doors. 03:07 a.m. Footsteps on gallery, though all men accounted for. Kerr speaking, feel intense vertigo as if island. Listing, sea still flat, please advise. Then silence. A teat on the Pole Star received one final burst, only 3 words. Relay stamped at 3:33 a.m. before the set went dead. Sea is above. Montague's unscheduled inspection. Lieutenant Commander Montague, compelled by both duty and a gnawing terror he would never admit, commandeered a torpedo boat and thundered for the Flannans with a 6-man rescue crew. They reached Eilean. Under bruised daylight to find the lighthouse tilting 9 degrees, green light idling behind fogged panes. No smoke rose from chimneys. On the jetty lay a single oilskin cloak, sleeve pointing seaward as if its owner had evaporated mid-stride. Montague's men advanced up the path. The twisted railings now bent inward, like claws gripping the cliff. At the entrance, the oak door gapped wide. Inside, shoes floated 6 inches above the tiles, turning slowly in mid-air. The moment Montague stepped inside, they fell lifeless. The tower was empty. In the machinery room, the floor fissure yawned wider, edges glassy, depth immeasurable. From its throat rose a column of silent spray, droplets hanging weightless before descending again in a perpetual fountain. Montague dropped a plumb line. The cord grew hot, snapped, and recoiled with its lead weight half melted. Kerr, Blair. Sweeney gone, logbook missing. Only 3 damp footprints on the final step, toes downward into the abyss. Classified Directive 723B. Back in Edinburgh, the Admiralty convened a hush-hush summit. Scientists cited localized inversion of barometric strata, geomagnetic vortices, and quantum cavitation events. Clergy muttered of demons of the deep. Insurance men simply refused to cover posts in the Outer Hebrides henceforth. Finally, a single-page Directive 723B sealed Flannan Light indefinitely. All lenses removed, lantern extinguished, site declared inadvisable for human habitation. Patrol quarterly to verify structural integrity from seaward only. No landings authorized. Official. Blamed rock instability. Newspapers speculated about German U-boaters, sea weapons, even alien airships. The truth sank into the black ledger of naval secrets. Moore's last duty. Joseph Moore left lighthouse service, farming sheep on Skye. Yet every Christmas Eve he climbed a headland and stared west, searching for a green flash on the horizon. In 1923, a film crew coaxed him to recount the events. On camera he said only, "There are storms that sail beneath the keel, not above masthead. If ever again Flannan Light shines, God help the mariner who follows it." He died 2 years later, diary locked in sea chest. Its final entry read, 13 beats tonight. The sea is lifting the stars again. Chapter 5 echoes below the bedrock. Fast forward nearly 7 decades. The year is 1969. North Sea oil fever is boiling, and an Anglo-Norwegian consortium charters the research vessel RV Caledonia to run deep penetration sonar sweeps around the remotest Hebridean stacks. The brief is mundane. Map fault lines before anyone plants drilling rigs in unstable crust. But the lead geophysicist, Dr. Isla Forbes, carries a personal agenda. She grew up on Sky hearing whispers of the green lights that steal men. And she wants answers science can print in nature, sheets of stone that breathe. April 2nd, 4:18 UTC, the Caledonia's multi-beam sonar depicts Isle's submarine flank as a sheer cliff to 90 meters, then a sudden concave hollow, a bowl carved into bedrock where no erosion model fits. Dr. Forbes orders a chirp pulse at 13 Hz for curiosity's sake. The display replies with a negative echo, an acoustic shadow shaped like an hourglass, absorbing rather than reflecting sound. Technicians refire at 12 Hz. A normal bounce. A T 14 Hz. Normal, back to 13 Hz, and the ship shudders as if it has struck submerged rock, though the keel meter reads clear water. Through the hull plating blooms a vibration that feels almost organic. Thump, 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 13 seconds apart. The exact cadence Joseph Moore logged in 1900. Forbes notes a spike on the pressure transducers. Local column water weight drops 2 millibars in 3 seconds, as though a giant bubble grows beneath the island and momentarily lifts part of the ocean. Diving the hourglass. April 3rd, dawn glass calm. Visibility 30 meters. ROV Argonaut 2 descends the cliff face, its floodlights slicing dream green water. At 77 meters, the cameras show a perfect circular archway yawning into basalt, rim glassy, diameter exactly 3 meters, the hourglass neck. The probe hovers, sonar inside shows no return. An endless tunnel that curves downward beyond beam range. Argonaut 2 pushes for meters in. Suddenly its gyro lists 90 degrees. Video feed goes vertical. The tunnel walls have flipped orientation, as though gravity pivots. Operators attempt full thrust reverse. Power drains. Last image. A blurred swirl of emerald-lit water rising in corkscrew fashion around the camera dome. Telemetry flatlines. Recovery grapple finds nothing but melted cable ends, polymer fused. In 2 brittle spirals, insurance underwriters request the dive log. Forbes classifies it, citing possible geothermal vent. Crewmen whisper about the throat of the sea. Hydrophones hear a prayer. April 4th, 02:11. Array hydrophones trailing behind Caledonia pick up human speech. Frequency shift analysis isolates 3 overlapping voices chanting Gaelic psalm fragments. One phrase repeats, the Echuanes Chonar Sin, the sea is above our heads. Forbes cross-checks with century-old transcripts of Donald MacArthur's handwriting, identical dialect markers. When the audio loops for the 13th time, a green flare bursts from Isle's summit, even though the lantern has been dismantled since 1901. Satellite cloud photographs taken inadvertently by a passing Nimbus platform show a spiraler aura 5 kilometers across centered on the Isle ground. Radar logs nothing. The Ministry of Defense black bags the recordings. Caledonia sails south. Forbes resigns, diary confiscated, mind forever pacing a corridor of living stone. The rig that tilted sideways, jump 35 years. 2004, corporate drillers can't resist sneaking seismic lines near the forbidden zone at dawn to dodge Coast Guard patrol. Semi-submersible rig Prospect Dawn anchors 20 nautical miles west-northwest of Isle's. Night shift logs flat seas. At 3:33 the helideck inclinometer surges. Entire platform heels 8 degrees starboard, though no wave strikes the pontoons. Subsea cameras show water climbing in a smooth wall 3 meters above ambient sea level, only beneath the rig like the ocean lifting to peek at the steel intruder. Crew release emergency moorings. The rig rights itself, but before engines spool, a green column pillars from the depths, piercing moonlight. Every bulb aboard shatters. Data servers wipe to zeros except a single surviving hex string. repeating ad infinitum the knocks in Morse, prospect on abandoned site. Insurers eat a £220 million write-off, modern silence, today Eilean. Lighthouse stands dark, leaning 11 degrees, bird specked and rust-veined. Tour boats keep a superstitious smile, yet yacht. GPS logs show periodic 13 Hz glitches within a perfect half-nautical mile ring the silent perimeter. Hydrophone buoys drift close, then die. The Scottish Maritime Authority's official chart marks the Flannan inner waters with a greyed oval, unsurveyed enter at own risk. Fishermen call it Gaoth-Fhiain, the wild breath, and on calm nights, surfers on Lewis claim they see 7 emerald lights on the horizon, ranged like a crooked Big Dipper, pulsing in sets of 3, pause, 3 beckoning. Chapter 6, The Granddaughter and the Ghost Code. Wind shrieks across the minch like torn canvas the night. Yin. Moore, grandniece of Joseph Moore and senior engineer at Caledonia Deepwave Technologies, receives the automated distress ping from Hydrobuoy 13, timestamp June 21, 2025. 3:33 UTC payload. A single looping burst of 13 Hz infrasonic pulses married to Morse. The same ghost code her ancestor logged 125 years earlier. Deepwave's AI buoy array, nicknamed An Mirror, lines the Hebridean shelf like pearls on fishing line, each node translating oceanic tremors into visual ghost sonograms. For 6 months the network has hummed nothing but blue on blue tranquility. Now Node 13 severs itself, fail-safe release vanishes from GPS. 10 seconds later Node 12 follows, then 11, dominoing toward Eilean. As though something enormous hauls the pearls beneath the waves. Yin calls an emergency meet on the Caledonia's successor, the RV New Kilcoman. Satellite weather shows flat barometric calm. AIS traffic sparse, yet algorithmic spectrograms bleed emerald green artifacts in perfect spiral geometry, digital echo of the 1969 Nimbus photo. The system's anomaly classifier mutters one classification. Never meant to surface, unknown life form megafractal, some depth 90 m. The board of Deepwave orders a soft glove approach, recover a buoy, then schedule press release about unusual subaqueous resonance. But, Yin, carrying Joseph Moore's moth-eaten logbook like a talisman, storms the bridge. The sea isn't rising, she warns, eyes bright, it's listening, and tonight it finally heard itself, answered the buoys talked back. Into the silent perimeter, June 23, 1840 UTC. The new Kilcoman crosses the greyed oval labeled and surveyed. Crew hush, remembering tales. Hydrophones hiss white noise until click, total muting, as if someone shuts a door on the Atlantic's. Endless rumble. The ship now plows a blind ocean. Sonar returns only flat black beyond a 500-meter ring. Captain Sato drops speed to 2 knots, hearts drumming. Deck lights reveal drifting wreckage, the bright orange hull of Buoy 11 intact but gutted of electronics, interior linings scored by spiral grooves like nautilus shells, its pressure logger. Ripped off dangles on ribbon cable, still flashing error in salt spray. Yin hauls the cylinder onto deck, the LED counter stuck on 13 blinks. Then abruptly resets to 12. What's it counting? Murmurs the first mate. Yin's breath fogs despite mild night. Us, she whispers. The lens of light beneath, ROV Talisker dives tethered on graphene umbilical. Cameras slice the green gloom. 80 meters nothing. 90 meters limestone shelves pocked by basalt scars. At 113 meters the feed flickers. A smooth parabolic dish of fused quartz yawns from bedrock, 30 meters across, its surface shimmering in pulsing viridian light. Talisker's altimeter reads. Negative depth for 3 seconds, as if space inverts then corrects. A sonar ping dissolves against the dish, absorbed like sugar in tea. Downlink Cardio bursts with a triple pulse pause, triple pulse. The dish responds by flexing optic fibers beneath its skin, relaying beats that resonate through Talisker's chassis. Every servo stalls. Yin yells for ascent, but Talisker jerks downward toward the dish's throat as if magnetized, umbilical. Tensional arms, crew heave winches. Cable snaps, telemetry dies at timestamp 03:33:13. Moments later, the ocean around New Kilkaman rises half a meter silent dome, then settles, leaving deck coated in glittering brine. The stray droplets glow emerald before fading to dull salt crust. The lighthouse rekindles. 23 June, 3:34 UTC. Bridge watch shrieks. Flannan light is burning, though the lantern was dismantled generations ago. A strobing beam slices cloud color of deep-sea plankton, sweeping thrice pause. The tower now leans 12 degrees, yet the beam remains level as though the source floats at its heart rather than sits on the lantern pedestal. Radio bursts alive with Gaelic hymns, layered upon themselves, reversing at 13-second intervals. In the mix, Yin hears her own mother's voice, dead 5 years, reciting childhood prayers. Crew fall to knees, some weeping, others jamming fingers in ears, yet the sound creeps through bone, vibrating marrow. Seawater at hull line warms. To bath heat, depth finders vanish into static that resolves into a three-dimensional lattice of glowing symbols, archaic Celtic knots veined with Arabic script, twisting like DNA in fractal recursion. The AI nav charts label the pattern, topology impossible, space folds inward. Captain Sato issues abandon ship, but as rafts deploy, the heartbeat thrums against hull plating 13 full cycles, then stops, absolute silence. The green beam extinguishes, the sea resumes gentle sway, stars blink innocent over dark water, the AIS transponder pings again. Chart noise clears, but every electronic clock aboard freezes at 03:34:13, matching Talisker's last breath. None can be reset. All must be replaced. Classified debrief and the offer. In Glasgow, Maritime Safety Panels Corridor. Yin confiscate hard drives. She produces Joseph Moore's original log and demands they read. A suited diplomat from Defense Intelligence Section 7 slides a non-disclosure. At its bottom, a paragraph in small print. In exchange for silence, the Crown will fully fund project. Gaoth-Fhiain exploratory acoustic research under command oversight. You will lead. She signs but stipulates a clause allowing personal recording for posterity. The diplomat's eyebrow arches, but the pen flows. That night she opens a fresh journal, entry 1. The sea answered itself through our machines. We gave the storm ears again. Next time it may grow a mouth. On her desk rests Booyah 11E's loop counter, now ticking 11. Sure. Each day at 3:33 UTC, Chapter 713 knocks to midnight. The new Crown-funded project Gaoth-Fhiain Wild Breath establishes its forward base on a decommissioned wave energy platform renamed Outpost Thistle, 30 nautical miles off Eilean. The platform bristles with quantum gravimeters, neutrino spectrometers, and Yin Moore's pride, a ring of 13 titanium-housed infrasonic resonators. Each resonator can emit and record at precisely 13 Hz in phased array, effectively questioning the ocean crust and capturing its answers in real time. Mid-October 2025, 21 o'clock UTC, cold front snarls over the Minch, yet barometers sit stubbornly. Steady. Yin, wrapped in wool and dread, flips the master toggle. Resonators hum alive, forming a low, sub-bone note no human ear can parse but every gut can feel. The platform's steel beams quiver as though giants pluck harp strings beneath the waves. Cycle 1, A perfect echo returns expected baseline. Cycle 2, a fractional phase lag appears microseconds, but enough to paint a shadow on the arrays. Holographic display, an hourglass silhouette rising from Eilean. S trench, cycle 3, lag triples. The silhouette's waist twists, becoming spiral. The sea around the platform drops 3 millibars as if something enormous inhales. Yin. Orders power cut, but the array keeps transmitting, hijacked by an external signal that splices perfect. Morse into the carrier wave. Pause 13 Hz heartbeat repeat. Wind slams the corrugated walls. Crewman Bryn Callahan radios from the southern spar. Seawater in ballast tanks is glowing green. Moments later, Knock 1 reverberates. Up the spar, metal to bone, deep and deliberate. 12 seconds later, Knock 2. The platform's superstructure shudders in sympathetic cadence. Yin. Ease console auto scrolls node telemetry. Counter 09, counter 08, counter 07. She realizes the buoy counter wasn't counting days, it was counting knocks down the spiral. At knock 6, the central derrick tilts 2 degrees. Green mist seeps from drainage grates and beads on skin like cold sweat. Cameras aimed at Eilean. Catch the lighthouse's dark lens blazing emerald. Though the tower now leans 14 degrees, the beam remains eerily level. Knock 9 splits outpost thistles, helideck, cargo netting snaps. Crates of fiber optic cable skid into the sea, splashing but never surfacing, a guttural drone half-horn. Half-choir rises through the pylons, chanting Gaelic in reverse. Yin. And lead technician Akira go to sprint to the resonator bay. Each titanium pod vibrates at impossible amplitude. Bolts creep from housings, shear ricochet down corridors. Go to lunges for the master busper, hands sparking on 1000 volt connectors. He slams the breaker. The hum dies, silence falls so heavy ears pop, but the knocking continues. Knock 10. Knock 11, no longer platform-borne but earth-borne, rising through the steel pilings like thunder trapped in granite. Yin. Grabs the emergency sat handset. Transmitting mayday on encrypted defense channel. Static answers, then her own voice, recorded hours earlier, plays back, whisper slow. Next time it may grow a mouth. The handset melts in her palm, dripping silver alloy onto steel grating. Knock 12, the eye opens again. 03233 UTC. A final knock 12 detonates every floodlight. In the sudden dark, the sea west of the platform lifts a smooth wall of water 11 meters high, glowing viridian from within. The wall doesn't crest. It simply holds, as though the ocean has become thick glass. Inside the wall, a vast shape coils upward, a double helix of light and stone, revolving like planetary gears, studded with iron lips and eyeless masks. Yin recognizes the geometry. From deep waves, forbidden scans the megafractal life form. Only now she realizes it isn't one creature, but all the missing keepers, sailors, and voiceless souls, fused into a single engine of listening. The shape bends toward outpost Thistle. Green flares ignite along the helix, each pulse a silent syllable. Panels vibrate. Air tastes of salt and ozone. Yin screams above the din. You can hear us, what do you want? The ocean answers. With knock 13, steel buckles, resonator housings implode, spraying shards. The platform groans like a wounded beast. Crew sprint for lifeboats, but gravity lurches down, becomes sideways. Life rafts swing horizontal, never releasing. Water, thick as honey, pours up through deck grates, defying Newton. Yin staggers to the central control pod. Only one option remains. Invert the resonance, emit 13 Hz at phase, flipped polarity, creating destructive interference. She reroutes battery banks, slaps initiate. A Basque cripples outward, colliding with the incoming heartbeat, lights strobe green. Versus white until color drains, leaving raw ultraviolet. The wall of water vibrates, cracks, shatters into mist. The double helix unravels into a billion droplets that freeze mid-air, each droplet containing a microscopic screaming face. Then, as if a cosmic vacuum opens, the droplets flicker. Back toward the lighthouse beam, sucked into the lens, gone, silence. True silence, the kind Joseph Moore could never forget. Dawn over a broken tower, 04:15 UTC, first gray blush over the Minch. Outpost Thistle lists but holds. Survivors 15 of 23 tend wounds, eyes ringed by neon afterglow. Gua radiological counters click faintly but fade. Distance, Hylian. Lighthouse stands dead dark. Lean remains 14 degrees. A final plume of emerald smoke. Snakes from its lens, then dissolves. Hands shaking, checks the shattered buoy counter salvaged from deck. Numbers sit frozen at 00. For the first time in 15 months it does not tick. She records in her throat tra whisper, 13. Knocks received. 13 returned balance. Maybe, Chapter 8 when the ocean learns your name. Dawn spreads pewter light across a North Atlantic suddenly tame. Outpost Thistle groans, battered but upright, its broken resonators hanging like snapped harp. Strings over quiet water. Engineers in Hes suits record the air. Normal salinity, normal barometric weight. Yet every compass aboard spins a lazy figure 8, as if the planet's poles are daydreaming. Yin. Moore stands on the main deck, gripping her granduncle Joseph's weather-stained logbook. In the hush she expects to hear the 13th knock return, but only gulls cry ordinary, living, disinterested. She writes one sentence under Joseph's final line, balance bought. Termin known. Then she closes the book, keenly aware that unfinished stories are the ones that bite. Debrief of shadows. 3 days later, Crown representatives helicopter to the derelict platform. They ship survivors off to a sealed ward in Inverness, swaddle hard drives in lead, and scuttle Outpost Thistle with shaped charges. The explosion thunders beneath gray clouds. The rig folds into itself and sinks, leaving a perfect glass green circle on the surface that fades within minutes. Official. Blame catastrophic structural fatigue, but one file escapes deletion. Akira Goto's last spectrogram, smuggled out tucked inside a half-eaten shortbread tin. Yin studies the printout nightly amid chaotic spikes. She finds a single silent trough exactly 13 seconds wide, followed by a signature unlike any known waveform. It resembles an ear or an eye. She files it in Joseph's chest. Locks the lid. The lightless Isles today, Eilean, remains dark, its lantern room shattered in the ultraviolet flash, lens fused into apatite glass that swallows sunlight rather than reflects it. Fishermen report the isle has ceased to lean. Further, it rests at an uneasy 14-degree tilt, as though frozen mid-bow. Yet every solstice, satellites still catch a faint emerald filament snaking from the ruined tower straight up before vanishing among the stars. Scientific ships now skirt a 30 nautical mile exclusion zone, sometimes buoys far outside the ring tick 13 hertz for an hour, then stop. Insurance clauses call it the quiet halo, what the deep keeps. Yin refuses another contract. She settles on Sky, teaching acoustics to restless teenagers who like the way sine waves rattle window panes. On stormless evenings she walks the cliffs and listens. Most nights she hears nothing but surf and her own heart, but once, just once, she hears a gull's cry echo back in perfect Morse. ... The bird wheels away. The echo stays a moment longer than physics permits, then flicks off as if some vast ear beneath the sea has acknowledged the message. and is patient. She tucks her hair into her coat collar, whispers to the waves, "Be still." The sea for now obeys. You've just traced every hidden knock, every heartbeat under stone, and every stolen voice of the Flannan Isles. If this tale chilled you, if you felt the deck tilt and the green light brush your skin, then join the crew that refuses to look away. Subscribe to Crazy Real Horror Stories to anchor yourself before the next storm rises. Share the mystery, tap the bell, and keep a candle burning, because some lighthouses never truly go dark. Until we meet again, beware the 13th knock. And remember, the sea is listening.